You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record player, right round, round, round. So, we have our equation. We've learned what a pooled proportion is, and now we're ready to finish out our hypothesis test. In our case, the equation would look like this. Now, notice in this case, for the men, it's 168 out of 360. It's not out of 192. That is a common mistake for students to make. To get the 360, you have to add the 168 and the 192 together. For the women, it's 166 out of the 166 and 138 together, which gives you a total of 304. For our pooled proportion, the 168 and 166 and the 360 and 304 give us 334 out of 664. That is not the same as adding fractions. If your math teacher saw you add fractions this way, they would throw a conniption fit saying, common denominators. This is not adding fractions, this is pooling fractions. So that 334 over 664, it shows up 4 different places, here, 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 and there. That is a pooled proportion which goes everywhere that p hat 1 or p hat 2 would have been 4 times in this equation. Now, thanks to my big calculator, please don't get distracted by the fact that my calculator is bigger than yours. The men's proportion was 47%. Women's was 54%. So between 47 and 54, this p hat is about 50%. It leans a little closer towards the men's percentage because there's a larger sample size there. But a pooled proportion is pooling everybody together from both groups, and naturally it's going to land somewhere in between the two proportions. So this is 47, this is 54, and 50% is going in here. Now I recognize it's going to be hard to put this in your calculator, and I need a little more board space. So let me erase some of the stuff on the board. Oh no, please, don't erase me! Quickly grab the children, it's the big eraser coming, you have to... No, I have 4 little equations at home, don't do this! It's what we think every time we're erasing the board, we just don't say it out loud. This equation, if I want to put it in my calculator, it's going to look like this. Now, I realize some of you don't want to put the whole thing in your calculator all at once. You like to do smaller pieces, and that is great if that works for you. Make sure you carry out a lot of decimal places, because when we're talking about proportions, a little change when you square it can mean a big difference. So if you put it in little pieces and carry out a lot of decimal places, that also works. But if you want to put it all in your calculator, the key thing is parentheses. Notice the parentheses here for the whole numerator has to be together. Notice parentheses here at the start of the square root, and don't end that square root until the very end. The 1 minus p bar here also needs to be in parentheses, and that guy in parentheses. I did skip the minus 0 part, partly because I'm being lazy and partly because I'm trying to show you the easiest way to get this in your calculator. This is tough, and in the homework you do have to be able to do this at least a couple of times. But I will make you a deal. On the exam, you will not need to be able to put this in your calculator. Because on an exam, you're gonna mess something up. Even on the homework, it'll take you 3 or 4 tries to get it right. So what I might do is give you a couple of equations and say which one is the right one. Or I might ask you what are the pieces you need, what is the pooled proportion. Or you might have to fill out the equation but not actually calculate it. Things like that are very common for exams. But being able to do this on the first try with no mistake, yeah, right. So if you plug this in your calculator, you should be able to get negative 2.038. So with that in mind, let's go back to everything we had on the board before. Back to the example that we were working with. My z-score is negative 2.038. I plug that into the applet. And notice that my test is not left-tailed or right-tailed. This is two-tailed. So I do want this little tail here, but I'm going to take that 0.02077 and I'm going to double it, which leaves us with a p-value of 0.04 compared to an alpha of 0.05. This is smaller, so we reject the null, which leads us to conclude the proportion of men who like cats is not equal to the proportion of women who like cats. And that's not the only way you could word it. You could also say there is a difference between the preference for cats and dogs between men and women. Lots of ways you could word that. So we're done here. Go on to the next video and we will see another example start to finish.
All the way up.
Holy stink!
Dick,
I'm crazy!
are you gonna die? You
Ah,
have it.
I can't.
Ah!